Buy $283,000 a year in cash flow for $62,000. Get a loan from the SBA with 10% down and buy this salon in Houston, Texas. The purchase price is $612,500. The down payment is about $62,000. You'll take on $550,000 worth of debt, and you just have to make sure that you can pay the debt from the cash flow. I calculated the debt payments. It's about $12,700, which means after debt, you have $130,000 left over. Next, you need to identify the potential red flags. Rent's about $5,200, and after other expenses, there's not much cash for growth. Identify the value add opportunities. The salon is unique because of education, and there's very little digital marketing where you can come in and help. Go to your team to underwrite, your accountant, lawyer, equity partner, due diligence company. Buy this salon, improve the digital marketing, and watch the cash flow roll in as you scale and learn. Now, in your scaling and learning, there are a few questions that you're going to have to ask yourself. Like the first red flag I mentioned is that, you're buying some cash flow after the debt payments, which were about $12,700 a month or $12,500 a month or something like that. You have $130,000 left over. And that's the number I want to work with, because then the rent is $5,200 a month. So say that's about $60K, just for simple math. You have about $70K, $65,000 left over. And so when you're thinking about what you need to pay yourself, you're really running into, can I live off of $30,000 to $35,000 a year? Because yes, you have $60,000 a year left over after debt payments, after rent, but you also want to grow the business. You want to reinvest into marketing. And so that $30,000, $35,000 out of that 60 is going to go back into marketing, going to go back into staff, going to go back into the offer so that you can produce more income for yourself. And you're going to have a baseline living expense of $30,000 coming from your business. The question you have to ask yourself is that feasible? Can I live off that $30,000, or am I going to have to work another job and run this business in the evenings, in the mornings, and on the weekends? Or do I bring in another manager who will take equity, who can live off $30,000, $35,000, and who can learn in the process, and maybe that's a young entrepreneurial type? Or do you just buy another business? That's really the question you have to ask yourself, because I don't think there's enough meat on the bone for this business. It has high overhead, $60,000 in rent. We didn't even talk about other expenses, which I'm sure there are other expenses. You have $60,000 in rent plus other expenses, and total cash flow is like $283,000. It's not a ton of money. After that, you have $130,000 left over. I don't know. It's getting tight here. There's not much room for growth. There's not much room to pay a salary to a CEO. So I think this type of business is best purchased if you have a couple of salons already, and maybe you're trying to add that educational component onto your other salons. So it's like maybe you have salons that are running at $1 million a month, $1 million a month in profit. That'd be glorious. $1 million a year in profit, still glorious. But you want to have a value add to your current salon business. You got there without having the educational component. So that unique selling proposition that this business has, you want to buy it, incorporate the proprietary nature of it into your current salon business, and then you want to scale and grow from there. That, of course, would make this a good purchase. But if you're buying this as a first business, I don't think there's enough meat on the bone to justify having enough for growth and to justify having enough to, just pay yourself. Like, you probably want to get out of here. If you have kids, you probably want a six-figure income. If a spouse isn't working, if a spouse is working, you probably still want $60,000 to $70,000, and you want your spouse to be making, six figures or $90,000 to $80,000. You probably want to be at that 150 mark if you have kids as a household. And you can live off way less than that, but you're starting to sacrifice some stuff in your kids' lives. And so when you're thinking about what you need to pay yourself, it's important that you take into account, hey, I have some family. Hey, I have these living expenses. Is it better for me to just work a W-2? Because honestly, for some people, it is. Or you save, you implement some community investing, and you buy a bigger business. For example, you can buy this business, $283,000 in cash flow for $60,000. But if you get 5 friends and you all have $60,000, now you have $300,000, and you could buy a $3 million business. And that $3 million business can have $1 million in cash flow. And the debt payments on that will probably be $600,000 a year, but then you have $400,000. So now that's enough to hire a CEO or hire an operator and then take the rest and market, right? Okay, now it's looking a little different. It's looking a little different now. Because now you and your friends, you each put 60,000 in. There's 5 of you, so you got to 300,000. You all can keep working your jobs, but now you own a business that's making $1 million in EBITDA, and or $1 million in profit, and as you pay it down, you capture that debt payment in profit. The CEO, you're paying 200,000 a year. You're spending 100,000 in marketing, and then 100,000 you're kind of building up reserves for the business to be able to make payroll, accessing business credit, all that good stuff. But that's kind of what you need to think of. Can I pay myself from a W-2, get some friends together, and start buying businesses together? Because once in 5 years, when that business has debt paid off, or in 7 years or 10 years or whatever your loan term is, it has its debt paid off, it gets crazy. Because now you're just making $1 million in cash flow. You still have that $200,000 where you hire an operator. Of course, you have that $200,000 in marketing. So hopefully it grew 10% year over year. So maybe now you're at 1.5 million in profit. Still the same expenses, right? 400K. It's 1 million in profit. There's 5 of you. You're each taking home 200,000 a year. Of course, you take that 200,000 from each of you. You put it into a pot, and now you buy a business that's also worth $3 million, but you do it on way less leverage. So now that you've done it on less leverage, you're cash flowing more from the get-go, you can pay it off faster, and you stack it. And now, 15 years later, you and your friends are each taking home $400,000 a year, and you just start buying businesses cash after that. Because you have $2 million a pop, you just start buying $2 million businesses cash that are always bringing $800,000 in cash flow, and you just keep buying them. You keep buying them, and you get to the point where it's like, okay, now all my friends are making $1 million a year, and we're 45, we're 50. That's pretty good. That is some pretty good stuff right there. Then you could cash out. You each kind of get a multiple, cash out $5 or $10 million, and you're good to go. That's what I would say. I would just kind of look at that of like, when you're thinking about what you need to pay yourself, it's easy to think, oh, $60,000, I can only buy this business with $60,000, and that holds you back. But it's like, well, you could take that $60,000, partner with 4 other people that have $60,000. Now you got $60,000 times 5. You got $300,000. You can buy a pretty handsome business where you can hire an operator who has experience, who has done this before. So that's kind of what I would ask myself when I'm thinking what I need to pay myself, how I would go about buying a business. Maybe you're not the operator. Maybe you buy a business that is big enough to bring on an operator. The next question you have to ask is, how much content do they have from the educational component? So we talked about the red flags of like, okay, there's not really enough cash flow here to justify buying this business, but some of the green flags are some of the like benefits or value add opportunities were the digital marketing. They didn't have a lot of it, and digital marketing helps drive business growth, but they have educational content that they give people. There's an educational component to the business. How much of this can be broken down to content, into reels, and then can it be boosted with a modest marketing budget to attract our ideal client? Who is our ideal client? How can this content be used to attract them? I assume the education is designed for them. So that's what you'd have to look at. How much content do they have from the educational component? What is the quality and content of the content they have for the educational component? Is it targeted at an IPC or ICP, ideal client profile? And is it valuable to them? How can I make it more valuable? These are some questions you can ask. Is there something else I need to teach them how to do? Once you solve how much content is out there and you start breaking it up, that can be the foundation of your digital marketing. And then you just continue to answer other customer questions based on the feedback that you're getting as you start your digital marketing journey. Now, you've helped the digital marketing, that's the value add. You figured out a way to solve for the profit side of things. Maybe you're like, hey, I don't need money right now because I have some friends who are sponsoring me and we're going to buy up a lot of these salons. So this is only the first acquisition to start building momentum. Maybe that's the case, but you figured out how you can pay yourself from this business. You figured out how much content they have and that it's quality and that it's focused at an ICP, or you figured out how to focus it on an ICP and make it more quality. And that's the foundational building block for your digital marketing. The next question I would ask is, how many other value add components can come from the educational side of the business. So when you're thinking of education, you're thinking of digital marketing, I always love to think about these communities, these mastermind communities, and that's always where my mind goes to because people live and thrive in community. Can we make this a recurring revenue stream to bring people into a community that does X, Y, and Z for them? Now, I don't know the pain points or the ideal outcomes of their client, but that is something you can figure out. You can structure a community around it that creates a recurring revenue model in the business, and recurring revenue is easier to predict, which makes the business more valuable. So I would look for other value-added opportunities like that and just really focus on the digital marketing of the business because you can grow it, and the educational opportunity there is a unique selling proposition. So how can I leverage that unique selling proposition and blow the digital marketing through the roof to really create value in the business? So that's what we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next one. And remember, we are a community of people judged not by our wealth, but by our impact.